You and I with Rashmi Shetty is a simple attempt of bringing in stories of people you and I can draw inspiration from. Ordinary folks, extraordinary lives. Their uniqueness and individuality that make them interesting to talk to and to listen to. A reaffirmation of the fact: open your eyes wider. The world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Our guest today is Dipika Trehan, a philanthropreneur creating a global impact towards equity and inclusion. She is the founder of the H.O.W. Forum and Corporate Diva. Her organization works across verticals of holistic employee well-being and a women leadership development platform, Corporate Diva, that aims at transforming women professionals into women leaders. The platform addresses the upskilling and support needs of the entire life cycle of women professionals. The organization has global footprints across 12 countries, most recent being South Africa and USA. Listen in as Dipika shares her journey, her triggers, her high points, and her dreams. Hi Dipika, such a pleasure always when it is a conversation with you. And for me, Dipika is equal to a diva who made sure that she recognizes the diva in every woman she meets. What an amazing thought process. And I'm very curious to know, what was that initial seed that made you realize that every woman carries a diva within? But before we get to that part of it, I want to know what was little Dipika like, because that Dipika to the Dipika Trehan the world knows now will be an interesting conversation on You and I with Rashmi Shetty. So welcome, Dipika, and such a pleasure, my friend, talking to you.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. It's a pleasure and a huge honor to always be in conversation with you, because I truly look up to you for a lot many reasons. And yes, you always land up starting the conversation by giving me goosebumps. So here I am yet again with goosebumps. And yes, it's been a journey to first identifying myself even closer to a diva. More importantly, to understand what does a diva mean to me before even I'd go ahead, translating it onto others. And to go back to the Dipika as a little girl, as a child, was nowhere close to a diva. Even how I define diva today, by it being a mindset, she wasn't ever close to that, because she was a plump child, body shamed and bullied for a long time in her childhood, had a lot of question marks in her mind in terms of why was she there? What can she do to fit in, to even come close to being recognized or acknowledged? So it's been a constant struggle. So much so that even, in my youth, and adolescence is a time which is a very, very sensitive time in a person's life. And your peers just mean the world to you. And their validation, their acknowledgement, if that doesn't happen, the isolation literally kills you. And I've been through that phase where for primarily because I wasn't fitting in terms of the body shape or whatever, I was isolated. And that isolation coupled with bullying just left me to a corner. And I thought the only way to bounce back was to shed those pounds of myself and maybe then try and fit in. So it was initially always about, how do I please? How do I validate? How do I get myself, my presence acknowledged, forget being recognized? And then there came a phase where, once you were into work, you were able to identify the good of you as well. You were able to identify your credibility, your strengths, because now you were in an open scenario where you could just leverage your strengths, and my strength was always people and relationships, because they were always very important for me. And so that was a zone that was of a comfort zone. And as we were talking even now, that the moment you're busy planning, life happens. And that's what it was for me as well. So I was doing fairly well in my career path at that time. And then out of nowhere, marriage happened, out of choice. And I had to make a choice whether to continue with my work and stay away from my husband for a period of time, or I accompany him and maybe rejoin work when in 6 months we were supposed to get back. So I chose accompanying him. And there I was in the land of South Africa, which took me about 10-14 hours to reach from India, visas, and those were the days of ISD calls to parents. And so again, from being in a comfort zone, life led me to another state of discomfort and loneliness, and in a way isolation. Because of security issues, one had to be hugely careful. And I was a newlywed with, the typical Punjabi bride who wants to kind of have it nice and bold and all of that, but I had to go subtle. And but the one thing that has always kept me alive, Rashmi, has been my hunger to keep learning. Probably coming from the armed forces, a lot of elements get absorbed into your DNA by default. You start looking at the environment differently. You are more open in terms of adaptability, learning cultures, languages, interacting with people, and contributing to whatever bit that you can. And that's what happened in South Africa. So I just signed up with the embassy and said that this is what I can add value on. If the embassy needs any help, I'll be happy to support. And so all of that happened. South Africa became very close to my heart. My daughter was born there. And then we moved to Moscow. Russia was a different cultural setup. Weather setup was completely different, though it allowed freedom of walking and roaming about in the streets. But it was a different climate, a different language, a different culture, and lots to learn. Parallelly, of course, I kept on working with the Indian embassy. I kept on taking certain projects. I completed my MBA. I learned the Russian language. I had 2 babies, one in the South Pole, South Africa, the other in the North Pole, Russia. So then we decided to come back to India because we didn't want any more babies. So we came back to India, and that's where I got back to my core work in the HR and training and development space. But that was the time again I was grappling with self-identity. I probably found or felt that I was redundant for the workforce. There wasn't much value. Again, the whole questioning game starts, the imposter, the self-doubt and all of that. And I took baby steps until I reached a point where I realized that all these years, I've always put people first. And I never, ever figured on my list of priorities. And the one day, that one decision was to let me now play it different. Let me start slowly but surely putting myself on my own list of priorities. And that started with me maybe singing that one song of my childhood that I loved and was just forgotten in the way. Maybe cooking that one dish that I was really fond of, but because not everybody enjoys, who's going to bother making it? But I did start taking that effort to do things for myself. One thing, one day, one step at a time, until I climbed up my ladder of prioritization and reached the number one priority. And that's where the magic happened.
Okay, 1 minute. Before the magic happened, I want to know what prompted you suddenly to shift focus, because to go back to sing that one song, that one dish, and change your focus, the lens from outside to inside? What was there? What was the trigger? What was the trigger?
We often fear failure. We
Hmm.
often take failure as a very negative episode in our lives. But I think my whole being has changed because of probably the rock bottom that I hit in my life. I hit a rock bottom in my personal ecosystem. I hit a rock bottom in a professional ecosystem. I was grappling. I couldn't identify what my strengths were. And that whole stage of confusion, that whole stage of everything being so far away, that and it was just too dark in the tunnel.
Hmm.
And that's where I realized that I can't change everything. I can't make people believe. I probably was done proving myself time and again on various aspects, proving myself to myself as well on various aspects. And then that one little voice came from inside. And I had put on a lot of weight also because of all this turmoil going in. So I was about 94 kgs or something after my second child's birth. So I said, okay, if nothing is happening, let me just focus on again in my life, shedding those pounds that probably was bothering me. But I realized on that journey, it wasn't the pounds that were outside of me, apparently, on the physical part of it. It was the pounds that I was carrying in my mind, in terms of expectations, in terms of probably me setting my standards a bit too high. And I love that quote, which says that don't carry the mountains that you were meant to climb. So I was carrying those mountains, and naturally it was translating into all those mountainous looks of mine outside. And as I said, that rock bottom. And if you come to a stage where it is either drown or swim, then you do what it takes to swim if drowning is not an option. And drowning was never an option for me. So the only way to segue through it was to learn to swim. And that's how that pivot point came, that turning point came of prioritization of self. I wish I had known or learned that earlier without hitting that rock bottom, but no regrets on the rock bottom, because had it not been the journey I had traveled to hit that rock bottom, I wouldn't have had the H.O.W forum. I wouldn't have had Corporate Diva. I wouldn't have identified gaps and areas that I could contribute to. So yeah, so that was the turning point.
They always say, when you take 2 steps back, or when just before the archer lets go of the arrow, he takes it back, right? So sometimes that rock bottom, that step back, would be the one which will just then be the trampoline to push you to the next height. So yes, so now tell us about the magic and the magician within.
The magic, as I said, was that one decision that made me top my list of priorities.
Yeah.
The magician was self-love, and the fact that when you self-love has become too much of a cliche, and people seldom kind of find the right definition of selfishness to self-love and selflessness. These are all have very, very thin boundaries. But I experienced the power of self-love, because when you love someone, you want to do all to please them, to make them happy. You want to serve your flair so that the other person, you bring a smile to the other person's face, and all of that. So I said, if that's what happens in love, let me, I probably didn't think at that time, but I took a step of falling in love with myself all over again. And therefore, I mentioned that I started doing things that would make this soul smile. I started doing things that would make me happy. So even in a day which was packed with work, with husband, with kids, with responsibilities, and all of that, I slept with a smile, because Dipika did something for Dipika that she loved, during the day. And that was the magic. And therefore, but that magic actually led to a transformation of myself, where I landed up shedding about 34 kgs organically. And the transformation didn't hit me until we moved from Mumbai to Bangalore. And when I was just flipping through the pictures, since were new into the city, that's when I realized the power of that self-love and the magician behind it. And that's what led me to start the H.O.W forum with a simple tagline which said that making a woman fall in love again, this time with herself. Because I, by then, had experienced the power of that love. And I had realized that fitness is not all about nutritional diets and hardcore workouts and all of that. It's a combination of all elements, starting the foundation being how much do you love yourself. So, yeah.
This is so amazing, Dipika. You know, the thing is, everyone today talks about self-love today. And it took a pandemic for the most of the world to understand that you should be your first priority. And you're talking about something that you did a decade or slightly more than that. And when the journey with the self begins, it's an amazing space because you start realizing you don't have to put much effort now. You become your brand ambassador. So when your journey began with the Health for Women Forum, and how did you take it forward? Okay, you had an idea, you had a tagline, and how did you take this dream forward? You noticed gaps. You knew you were the best brand ambassador to talk about it. But how did you move forward? Where did you go first? How did the entire Corporate Diva platform emerge? What prompted you to do what you're doing today?
So, Rashmi, they always say that, think big, think big. I think thinking a bit too big also is a scary space.
Yeah.
Because then you probably fear from starting.
Yes.
So what I did was, my only idea was that since I had been through that journey and realized the power behind it, I just wanted to create a community which probably would not talk about fitness only or diets only or whatever. It would just talk about what did you do that one thing for yourself today and how that translates into your health and well-being. And I, since I was new into the city, I started taking, for the community itself, some yoga classes, yoga sessions and all of that. They felt the advantage of that and it being different from the workout sessions. And therefore, I was recommended to organizations for employee well-being and stress management, which I did tons of. I mean, in about 3 years, I had already touched about 30 organizations in Bangalore. And of course, Pan-India, their outlets Pan-India as well. So that was happening. And while that was happening, I met with a lot of women at work who were also part of these well-being, initiatives. And I realized that there are so many of women in the workforce, but when you look at the top of the ladder, there's so little of us. And that so little of us, the very thought of it irked me. Was that in any way communicating to me that only 10 to 12% of us are good enough? I refuse to believe that. And then I did a bit of a study research around what are the gaps. And a lot was to do with personal leadership, the inner mastery part of it. And that's where the initiative of Corporate Diva came into being, where I said, okay, I'm going to amalgamate well-being with leadership and enable women in particular to, get a better sense of self and bring themselves more prepared to the table. That's how the journey of Corporate Diva started. And it's just been evolving since then. And it's all about just building women leaders purely because we've got to change the statistics. And, it's not about how many women get transformed. It's about how well do they get transformed? How much do they come at peace with their own selves? How much can they have their ask clear? How much can they put a stop to the noise of questions around them and just listen to that inner voice of whether they want to make it happen or not? And that's why Corporate Diva as a platform has not consciously gone to organizations as a leadership development program. It's the other way around. We We want women to invest in their own self and own their own growth. And I wanted to build a platform which was authentic, which was genuine. More importantly, it was affordable, because women do get questioned a lot when, firstly, they don't invest much in their own self. And when they do, there's got to be an immediate tangibility to it.
Yeah.
Even then they are questioned. So now self-growth, self-love, self-development are actually intangibles, and it's a long drawn process. So that's why this whole thing of having it affordable for women to take the ownership, not sponsored by any organization, not another leadership development tick mark, but I want to grow, I'm going to own my growth.
Okay. Okay. And how were the buy-ins? How did you come up with Corporate Diva? Or how did that entire name come about? And when you approached organizations, were they just willing to take it all up, or was there hesitation? How did you build it, Deepika? It is the first steps which are the most difficult ones. Once
Yes.
it's in place, then it's easy to build. But those initial steps, like you said, all the syndromes possible, whether it's self-doubt or imposter, everything starts coming back to you. And at that point, what pushed you? What kept you going? Was the reaction so good that it was like, yeah, everyone's buying it in, so I'm on a roll? So
I truly wish so. I truly wish so. But no, it's been a very, very tough journey, especially for the term diva. Because, why I wanted to term it Corporate Diva was I was very clear that my audience is women at work, and therefore the term corporate. Diva, by then I had realized and identified my own definition of diva. My definition of diva included the caliber, the credibility, the time management, the skills that I as a woman bring to my environment. I mean, table is too small a place, but my environment, and therefore the term diva. So I was in love with this term diva, but it has been the biggest challenger for me as well. So when I would walk into organizations with whom I had already had a rapport, because I had done well-being initiatives for them, I wasn't even entertained the moment I mentioned the term corporate diva. And I was just, literally shown the door saying that, Madam, health and well-being take care, but we don't want ramp walks in the organization. And therefore, all the more I realized that diva has such a boxed translation to itself. And therefore, I realized that diva has so far only been associated with the glamorized part of it, the crowns, the sashes, the beauty part of it, the physical beauty part of it. And all the more I was challenged to now stick on to that terminology and prove it that, diva is a mindset. Everybody, including you and me, are a diva in their own right. And it's been a journey. I've had to let go of fabulous opportunities because they wanted me to change the term into maybe something else, like a power woman or something like that. But I was so connected to that term and the definition of out of the box for diva that I stuck on to corporate diva. And yes, the initial signups were tough, but I also realized diva worked to my favor initially as well, because everybody would probably sign up because they thought that, okay, diva has, there'll be something glamorous in it, and that's constant hunger, especially for women, to have that beauty related visibility. That, of course, that was like a stepping stone. And then it provided me an opportunity to change that and shift that narrative. So that's how Corporate Diva has been. And then the journey now, the stage now is where Corporate Diva, you were a part of it in March, culminated its global summit, which had buy-ins from 12 countries across the globe with Mr. Mohandas Pai, Sherry Blair, and so many other people. And more importantly, the same organization that had shown me the door for the term diva approached me to develop their women leadership development platform. And they said, we want it like a wow factor, like Corporate Diva. And that was the day I said, yes, kind of, uh, that was my success moment. That was my Diva moment of just believing in myself for something that was not well believed by the ecosystem.
I love this, Deepika, because, many a time as women, we give in when the world says, don't do it this way. And for me, this is a story of how to just go by what your gut, your instinct told you, that you stay with it because you had a kind of a connection with that term and you just were adamant for all the right reasons. So, from the time Corporate Diva has started, and how Forum is the platform on which all of it is being organized, what has your learning about women in general and their journeys in leadership been all about? Have you seen women shift? What are some of those moments where you're so glad you're doing what you're doing?
Lovely question. That again got me goosebumps. It's just so close to my heart, Rashmi, because that's why they say that travel and meeting people from different cultures uh, is a huge skill that you develop and build on, because given our environment, and most often you hear people talking about women, and most of the times my country's name comes in as an isolated spot where this is what happens to women in India.
Yeah.
And with my footprints across the globe, I realized, no, it doesn't happen to women only in India. It is something, yes, the translations would be different, but at the end of it, there is one foundational key requirement, that of dignity and respect. Dignity of the labor that a woman puts in, whether in her home ecosystem or whether at her professional ecosystem, or whether a blend of both. And respect is what she commands, she needs to command, and that's a need for everyone across the globe. So it has brought me to a position where even on global platforms today, I based on the knowledge that one has gathered over this period of time, I do put my foot down unapologetically and say that you can't isolate a country or a culture on certain things. It happens across the globe. So we're all alike, because at the end of the day, we're all human. No? We're all nurturers, we're all caregivers. We may translate that in different facets, but the core remains the same. So that is one thing that the platform has enabled me to do. And with small little transformations that I notice within my Corporate Diva tribe, there are moments even now when things don't move, when as at the pace that one would want them to move or translate. And again, I'm also human, so I go back to that spiral of that question mark. What are you doing? And this has been another magic in my life, and therefore I believe in magic. Each time I have felt low, Rashmi, from somewhere or the other, trust you me, a message, a WhatsApp, or maybe a post drops by of them describing what CD has done to them. Okay. And exactly at that, probably at a time when I need it the most. And that's when I pick my boots up stronger than ever and say that you got to keep going. It's don't put a number to it. Don't put a boundary to it that it should reach so many or, wherever. Just keep doing what you're doing and let the ripple travel far. In fact, in the process, enable other droplets to have their respective ripple effects. And that's how, the river must flow.
Mm-hmm. Any specific story, Deepika, which kind of just stays with you and spurs you every time you are on should I, how do I, what more? Any one story, you don't have to mention the name of the person, but any one story that every time you are thinking, okay, now where, now what, should it be something different, where the story tells you, just continue this journey, my girl, you are on the right path.
Absolutely. I have numerous of them, but the one closest to my heart. And I'm sure we've both reached at a stage where we can take names unapologetically, and that's of Hina Seni. She currently works for Cisco. Hina came to the CD platform in the 2019 batch. And at that time, apparently, outwardly, she came across as a very bold, a very comfortable with life, a clued up kind of a person, and all of that. And during the process of Corporate Diva is where one got to know her better as an individual, got to know her, that what have been her struggles in life. And what really hit me hard and deep was the fact that she's a cancer survivor, a cancer warrior. And by then it had been about 7-8 years of her, grappling with cancer, overcoming it and all of that. But very few knew about it. And the one thing that she said to me was that, Dipika, cancer as a disease was probably not as harsh as people with their words. There were times when she came back when she had recovered from cancer and she walked into maybe a family ecosystem or whatever, and she was questioned, oh, you're alive, as though she was just meant to have gone. Imagine that to an individual, a soul, where as it is, you're grappling with so much. There has been so much that's happened in your body, internally, externally. And then that whole words of people, they can scar you for life. So that happened. So after the Corporate Diva program, the 2 days that ended, I just reached out to Hina and I said that, Hina, I think you have a very powerful journey. And I think you should write about it, because I can tell you for sure you're not alone. There'll be many who would be killing themselves within with the burden of what similar to yours. She didn't revert on that message immediately. And she said, give me just some time to think. As a person I don't like to nag and follow up. I like giving people that space for them to decide and circle back, whatsoever the thing is. And I think about 10, 12 days later is when she circled back and she said that, Dipika, I think I'm ready to write. And she wrote. And, then we posted that thing after running it through 2-3 of her inner circle people. She said, okay, final version, good to go. I said, Pakka? She said, yes, good to go. And I said, okay, Hina, just take a deep breath. I'm posting it today, sharing the link with you. We did that. We circulated that link to the tribe. I posted it on LinkedIn and all of that. Not because I had an interesting story to connect with people around or whatever, but because I knew the power that that journey can bring to so many lives. And how it has, and what is more important is, how does the other person take it as well? Is she aligned with you that it is a power journey for further impact rather than a marketing thing for anybody? So she aligned there and we did that story. And today, Hina not only, was in the founding team of the cancer support system in her organization, Cisco, she actively associates with oncologists in terms of supporting people and families dealing with cancer as a ray of hope. And also in other organizations, she's been invited to be on the board of their cancer support groups as well. So, and what has been more beautiful probably has been that this girl has constantly invested in herself, consistently invested back into herself. And it's beautiful. In fact, it's a moment of pride to see that transformation. And just the other day, I met someone, maybe her ex-colleague, about a decade ago. And that ex-colleague was saying, oh, okay, Hina, she comes across a little outspoken. I said, you haven't seen Hina recently. And I take pride in that transformation. And kudos to that girl. Absolutely, my salute to her. So Hina is one person, not only do I look back in terms of when I need to pick myself up, but also of her loyalties towards the platform. She today stands strong as literally the spine of the CD platform and enables me to, kind of create footprints wider, because I know I have a very reliable, safe person holding the fort behind my back and who has my personal back as well. There are times where, people have not given enough credit to CD or whatever, and I would keep quiet because one doesn't want to kind of hog for credit or whatever. But she would call me up and say, how could you keep quiet then? Why didn't you tell that this is what CD has done to them and things like that? So I'm hugely indebted to the universe to have had our ways cross and to have had such a fabulous partner in the platform, and all done completely voluntarily. So I must have done something good to be blessed with that kind of an association.
No, I think just that your intent is so pure, Deepika. The universe has a way of just rewarding purity. Many a time we don't even realize, but this purity of intent is what many people do not give importance to. But the more pure the intent, the universe just conspires to bring in all the right people into play, into whatever your dream is, to take it to the next level. So I am sure the universe is playing along. So just close your eyes and wish, my girl, you will get what you want. That's the Deepika I know. But Deepika, at this point, I want to ask you that the pandemic has been one space where each of us have had reflective moments, where we have taken one step back, mainly to understand what life is and what is important. So, what have your learnings from the pandemic been?
My biggest, more than learning, reiteration has been to serve humanity. And like Rumi said, that, it's not always a drop in the ocean, it's always the ocean in a drop. Mm-hmm. The pandemic played havoc on everyone, and myself as well. But what I did realize was that somebody was organizing oxygen for somebody. Somebody was organizing ambulances for somebody. Somebody was taking somebody's dear one to the hospital where the immediate family could not make it. I realized the power of that somebody. You just have to keep doing what you've got to do to just be somebody to somebody. And that really, kind of reiterated that there is still humanity, and nothing of this was transactional. Nothing. In fact, when my mother-in-law also came down with COVID, and the rest of the entire family was with COVID, and we was, kind of stuck here in Bangalore, and we had to organize an ambulance for her to go to reach the hospital. So we spoke to the driver and the attendant there, and he said that aap chinta mat karo, your mother is like my mother. I have lost both my parents in the pandemic, and my only purpose now is to save somebody else's parent. And on reaching the hospital, he was with her till he handed her over to the medical staff. And then just as, besides all the payment for the ambulance and all of that, just as a bakshish or just as a thank you, we just sent him a small amount on Google Pay. Rashmi, within 15 minutes, he sends me back a screenshot and saying कि madam, आपने जो भेजा था ना उसका आधा मैंने ड्राइवर को दे दिया, and ये आपको बस मैं बताना चाह रहा था कि उसको भी दे दिया, दोनों ने साथ मिलके काम किया था. And that again struck a deep chord. These are the people who probably don't even have two ends meeting. Yeah. These are the people who probably would cash on and get and build whatever they want to at this time, because they know how vulnerable the other side is. But if these people can put themselves out selflessly, there's no question of asking or demanding for anything more. We're already such a privileged lot. Yeah. Yeah. So it's brought in a lot of learnings in terms of humanity. And it's just reiterated the fact that it's not a number game. And the thing that I detest from the core of my heart is to have anybody feel like a number. So, yeah.
Okay. And 3 life lessons, Deepika. You've seen a lot, especially, sometimes when you're dealing with women or human beings, their lessons also become part of your learnings in life. So you've met a lot of women and men in this journey so far. So 3 life lessons that you would like to leave us with, what would they?
I'll start with my personal life lesson, that of falling in love with yourself, because the kind of power that got unleashed the day that translated to me as an individual is probably so powerful that I can say that probably even after I'm gone, that power probably will keep the ripple travel far and wide. So yes, fall in love with yourself. Second being that serve. Just serve unconditionally. Don't make everything transactional. Sushant Singh Rajput incident that happened. Now, when you today in a professional ecosystem, you define success as visibility, followers, money, celebrity tag, comfort, luxury, everything. He had everything, so-called success. But how hollow was probably he inside? So don't define success only with monetary aspects. Bring in a soul into that success. And yes, it can have monetary benefits as well. And the last being that everyone here is for a reason. So never de-dignify anybody's contribution. And if you go down to grassroot level, something that we've shifted as a narrative in our house is that, the people who come to collect the garbage, they're normally referred to as kachre wala. We've consciously shifted the narrative for us and our children that they are safai wala. Because if they don't come 2 days, 3 days in a row, you know what crap you're dealing with. So bring in dignity to every contribution. Everybody is doing and serving in their own way. These are my 3 life lessons.
Beautiful, Deepika. And so are you in the space that you've chosen. Any dreams further, anything that you want to do, which you think will take what you're currently working with to the next level?
Yes, I've learned to give it out to the universe, Rashmi. Trust you me, one was raised with, in a culture where it was always said that, no, keep your dreams hush, hush. Don't tell anybody. But I've learned it through experience. It's the other way around. Give it out to the universe, because you don't know, again, somebody knows somebody who will make it happen for you. The intent has got to be right. So that in terms of dreams, there are 2 things that I dream of. One is to, in some way, no matter, I don't even say big, small, or whatever, in whatever space that I can, contribute towards bringing in more dignity to nurturers and caregivers. If that means bringing some kind of an economic reform for them in that space, that is one thing. And I mentioned in a recent podcast, I would love to go and represent this particular topic at the World Economic Forum in Davos. The math is complicated, but we'll find a way, and the second is that this whole space of empowering women at work, I'd love to shift it a step below, because I've realized that adolescence is where a lot of things change, especially for girls. And if you've seen the Run Like a Girl campaign, you realize that a girl who was fearless and who was careless and who was completely at par, gender wasn't even a topic to be spoken about. The moment she reaches puberty, suddenly there's a shift, and there is a downward shift. So if we can empower the girls there, build them up, raise them stronger, raise them with lesser questions on their own selves, I would want to contribute there.
Wow. Amen to your dream, Tatastu. And I'm sure the math will easily start coming into place. You'll find the right numbers to put together, and the universe will definitely make this a reality. Woman, you are somebody who continues to inspire me and surprise me with your dreams. Love the way you just dream and go ahead and just get it all done. Because the Global Summit was something that I really enjoyed being part of, and also seeing how people just came in and took it to a different level. It was amazing how you pulled it off together. So I think just sit there and dream and get your numbers in place. The universe will calculate it the right way to give you the number that you are dreaming of. All the very best, Deepika. May your tribe increase and may you continue to inspire like you've always been doing. Take care. Thank you so much for being on You and I with Rashmi Shetty.
Thank you. Thanks for coming into my life. I am soaked in gratitude for our roads to cross as well, because I think a lot of calmness came into me after meeting you. You do carry that aura with you, and I'm forever in gratitude for that. And you know that you're also one of my sounding boards. So thanks for being there. Thank you.
With that, we come to the end of this weekly quest of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know people who make the world beautiful. Write in to rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thhirdeye@gmail.com. Come. Let's explore this amazing world together, both you and I.